Hello. So you asked a question about slope and what slope means, and think of it as slope is basically how high or how low you go in terms of how fast you go. So, or the other way is that how steep the line is going to be or the slope's going to be. If you take a look at a ramp, if the ramp is this much, and we know that this ramp is much steeper than the first one, then can we just say the second one is steeper than the first one? Well, in real life, then we actually have to quantify it, meaning we have to give the number or the calculation for each of these two so that we can compare which one is more suitable. Because if you, let's say, are building a ramp for someone who's in a wheelchair and say, well, can you actually make it like this much of steep for the ramp? Then the one who's building it or designing it won't be able to do it precisely. And then later on, what may happen is you may have a ramp like this, and then there's a disconnection to the floor. Well, good luck with the person with the wheelchair, because then there's a big jump down, right? So that's why we need to calculate the slope, and that's the basic concept of the slope. Again, the concept of the slope is how steep or how flat it goes up or down per every movement in a horizontal way. Okay, so remember that the slope is how fast you go up or down. Okay, um, now then the thing is, sure, so we get the idea of what the slope is, and then the question is, how do we calculate it, right? Because as I said, we have to give the numerical value to it so that it can be used more precisely, for example, in real life in engineering, or even in the simplest possible way when you're ordering, for example, pizza with a number of toppings. So let's take a look at this. The simplest possible way for me to explain this is using a line. So let's say I have a straight line over here. In order for me to calculate how fast it's changing or how fast it's going up or down by, is then in order for us to do so, we just choose the two spots. If I ask you how fast you can run, let's say from Pharmacy and Lawrence to Warden and Lawrence, we can simply say, oh, from that point A at the Pharmacy and Lawrence to the point B, Warden and Lawrence, you can, let's say, run in 10 minutes, and that kind of tells us how fast you can move. So when we try to calculate the fast or the speed of the movement, we choose 2 points. Again, the speed is how fast or how much you move per every second, every minute, or every kilometer, right? It's per time. Same thing with the slope. So when you do calculate the slope, then you just need to choose the 2 points on a straight line. And it doesn't really matter which point you choose as long as those 2 points are on the same line. And it is your discretion to choose which one's easier. So I'll leave that to you. So let's say I have point 1 comma 2 over there, and I have point, I don't know, 4 comma sure 7. Okay, and again, remember, it's the slope is how much or how fast you move up or down by, not how fast you move in the horizontal way, in the left or the right way. So it's up and down. Okay, so it is up and down, and therefore like in a speed where you say 30 kilometers per hour, it means you can actually travel 30 kilometers within an hour period. That's what 30 kilometers per hour means. So same way in here that we choose the up and down change or the difference, and then divide it by the horizontal one. So in that case, we say slope, and the m is usually, that's the lowercase m is usually the symbol for the slope, is we call it rise over run. And if you confuse of this one and think of it as when you are going up the stairs, you usually lift your knee up, right? Rather than you move forward towards, well, through the stairs. So your knee rises first and then slides forward after that. So think of it that way, okay? So the rise over run, and that means your y values, so y values over the x values. And to find that, we basically find the difference in y values and then difference in x value. In the simplest format, then we say the one y value, the second point I'll say, subtracting the first y value, and then the same order, the x values. So then which one's going to be the first point and which one's going to be the second point? It doesn't really matter. You can say this is the first point and this is the second point, or you can say this is my first point, this is my second point. The answer is not going to change. But for me, as a preference, I usually move from the left to the right. Therefore, I choose this one as the first point and this one as the second point because that first point is more to the left. So I know this is my x value. I know this is my y value. I know this is my x value. I know this is my y value. Remember the alphabetical order, x comes first, so the first number is the x value. Then the first point, so I just put the subscript 1 and 1 so that I know those are the first points. And then 2 and 2 for the second point. Well, guess what? If it is a third point, obviously it's going to be x3 and y3, right? So to find the actual value of the slope, all you have to do is set up like this and then plug those into this formula right here. And then that's all. So for in this case, the slope is going to be 7 the y2 subtracting y1, which is 2, over then 4 the x2 minus x1, which is 1. And that will give me 5 over 3. And that's it. Okay? So the slope, how steep it is for this line, is then the 5 over 3. Hopefully this makes sense to you. Another thing is then what if I have a table of values? What if I don't have the straight line? How am I supposed to find the slope from this? Because I don't have a line, right? But remember this, the line actually is created from that table of values, right? Like you put the values and then you plot the values on the Cartesian plane or XY plane, and then you just draw a straight line by connecting all those dots. So they are basically the same thing. So if I say, I don't know, I'm going to put 1, 2, let's say 1, 3, 5, 7, and I'm going to say this is 10, 5, 0, negative 5, okay? Now, then you're going to say, then which two are we choosing? Remember, each point over here, or each row is each point. So I can say this is my first point. I can say this blue one is my second point and third point and on. Or I can even choose first point for this one of my choice and second one for this one. So it's completely up to you as long as you choose two rows because each row represents a point, right? Because this is just 1, 10. This is 3, 5. This is 5, 0. This is a 7, negative 5. So remember this, okay? And then once you do so, choose which one's first and which one's second, and then designate which one is the x1, y1, x2, y2, plug that into the formula, and that's all that is. So here I will choose the one that I highlighted. So my first point is 5, 0, and then my second point is 7, negative 5. Since this is the first point over here, that is going to be x1 and then y1. Since this is my second point, that will be my x2, that will be my y2. Then rest you just plug that into the slope formula, which is the rise over run, which is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1, which is written right here. So then my y2 is negative 5 minus y1 is 0 over my x2 is then 7 subtracting x1, which is 5. Again, the formula is right there, right here. Then when you calculate this, it will be negative 5 over 2. So that is just negative 5 over 2 as the slope. Then the question is, what does it mean by negative? So think of this way. When we go up, we say positive. When we go down, we say negative. Therefore, when the slope is positive, then it is a upward trend. So it goes like that. So it goes like this. But if m is negative, then it is the downward, downward, and it goes down that way. Okay? What if the slope equals 0? Well, then it is flat. It is literally flat. It does not go up or down. Okay? And what if my m is undefined? So for example, let's say if your slope is something, a number over 0, that is undefined. You cannot divide anything by 0. So then this basically tells me my graph is just going up straight up or down. Okay? That's basic knowledge of the slope and how to calculate the slope. Hopefully this is what you needed. Hopefully this was helpful. And yeah, continue to ask me questions and then leave comments over there. I will try to answer that as soon as I can. Okay? All right. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.